Welcome into Dealing with the Devils. It's Jack and JD, and the Blue Devils routed Louisville in Cameron tonight, and they look phenomenal, but all I can say is it's nice to have you back, Grayson.
It truly is. This is the Grayson Allen we've been waiting for. It's been building over the last 3 games. He is just on fire, but that missing flow that I've been talking about, it's back.
It is, JD. And the other thing that I've been talking about is, pick and roll. I wanted to see more pick and roll, and since Bagley's been out of the lineup and they've had to rely on Wendell more often, they've shown a Grayson Allen, Wendell Carter pick and roll game.
Well, and if Wendell Carter can get 5 or more assists in a game, something special is happening.
Well, yes and no. I mean, we've seen him put up similar numbers, not quite scoring-wise. Usually he's in the lower teens than upper teens. But still, we've seen him put up 3 or 4 assists. But just the overall, as you said, JD, the flow of the offense was just much better in this game between Allen and Carter. But more specifically here, I think Allen's aggressiveness without Bagley in the lineup has just been... It's freed up everyone else. And it's funny because it's been the opposite of what he thought would be best for the team, right? Grayson thought he needed to conform to the freshmen, fit in around them, but what's actually shown to be most beneficial for the team is that Grayson plays the way he knows how to play and the team fits in around him.
It's going to be very interesting when Mo Bags returns, because now Mo Bags is going to have to say, this Grayson thing is working. How do I now fit in with that, as opposed to what you were saying the other way around?
Right, and, the guy who's replaced him, Javin DeLaurier, while, of course, is no Marvin Bagley, he does play with the same amount of effort that Marvin plays with. He's a better defensive player, which has been part of the reason why their defense has been improved during this winning streak here. But also, I think, with the 5 guys that they had started the season with in the starting lineup, it almost had a bit of a all-star type feel, if you will, and they never developed a chemistry. And what DeLaurier, I think, has kind of allowed them to do is everyone's kind of moved up a slot without Bagley in the lineup. They are more comfortable, I think, in their roles and are more confident in knowing what they need to do on the court.
And I think there's one more adjustment, and then they will be, tournament ready for the ACC. They've got to figure out Trey Duval's role. He's tonight he's putting up 3-pointers from all over the place, not high-quality shots. He doesn't seem to have the ability to really guide the offense. He will finish with less than, 5 assists for the game. And we were looking at it in the beginning of the season where he was averaging twice that. So they've just got to figure out that one more piece. And, I don't know, Jack, it's possible that we will see with the return of Bagley, Duval goes to the bench.
It'll be interesting what the Blue Devils choose to experiment with in terms of the starting lineup and combinations as a whole, because clearly at this point in the season, it's very evident that they are, big heavy, and their best players, the guys who we primarily saw off the bench tonight, were Jack White and Marquise Bolden. Bolden, obviously a center.
Wait, could you repeat that again? What was that first name?
Jack White.
Yes,
Jack White has definitely emerged as a rotation player. He's taken OC's responsibilities as the first guy off the bench, but my point really was how big this Blue Devil team is. They haven't really been able to find that guard option off the bench, and so they have to figure out ways to get all of these big guys in the game because they're clearly their best players. So does that mean, as JD alluded to, do we see some more Marvin Bagley at the 3 position? It's something that they can definitely experiment with, especially with as much zone as they play. So it won't be as much of a detriment offensive end. You have a lineup of Bagley, DeLaurier, Carter with Trent and Allen. You have a lot of size. You have 3-point shooting, and you have obviously scoring in the paint and an offensive rebounding threat from all three of your big men there. So it's an interesting lineup to definitely contemplate. But I do want to see more often, in terms of the rotations, more times when we have guys like Jack White. And, we've also seen we haven't seen, I should rather say, the little general or the little admiral, Justin Robinson, in quite a few weeks here, and I thought he'd been giving them good minutes off the bench, similar to Jack White.
Totally agree with you, Jack, that there was an opportunity for us to see more of the little admiral, and I do not understand what would have relegated him to the bench, especially during this period in which Mo Bags is unavailable. I think he'd given him good minutes. The guy had a nice three-point shot. He exhibited it twice when he had a pair of threes in 2 different games. I would have liked to have seen him as part of the rotation as well.
Right, and the last thing I think that's been important is during this winning streak, one of their struggles has been when initially with the zone, when they would switch to the zone, while the defense would improve, their rebounding, specifically their defensive rebounding, would really, crap the bed. And in this winning streak, they've out-rebounded their opponents consistently. They did so tonight against a Louisville team, which I thought could give them trouble with their size. But outside of Ray Spalding, really no one gave them much difficulties tonight. But to me, that's been the other key to this winning streak. It's not necessarily so much that the defense has improved by leaps and bounds, but they're finishing the defensive possessions.
Well, I think that's true. They certainly took advantage tonight of some atrocious shooting by Louisville.
Right.
And, Louisville could just never get on track, either regular or from three-point land, where they normally like to hit a few.
So JD...
Duke has been...
JD, with this game, Louisville clearly didn't play very well. They didn't seem to have it tonight, as well as the game against Virginia Tech 2 games ago, where Virginia Tech just didn't seem like they were in the game at all, coming off their big win against Virginia. How much, and the game in between was Clemson, where they were missing 2 important players. So while we've talked at length here about how much their defense has improved, how much is it really the Blue Devils versus the opponent that they've played?
Well, I'm going to go say that they, as much as Coach K doesn't favor being in the zone, the players seem much more comfortable backing each other up that way. And so while, I recognize that maybe we played Clemson minus 2 of their better players, but this zone is working well for them. And if you notice, what happens is after the basket, they go into a trap zone, and then they fall back into the 2-3. And
right. It's a 1-2-2.
Overall thing, I think, is frustrating the opponents.
I agree. I do agree. And I think, as you alluded to, the help defense has also been better with the zone as a whole. But overall, the Blue Devils have really come into form here, showing out well towards the end of the season, and looking to make JD's prediction correct here as we move into the final stretch of games that they will close out the season on a winning streak heading into the ACC tournament. The Blue Devils will next play against Syracuse at home in Cameron on Saturday. Syracuse is coming off a tough loss in Syracuse against North Carolina. That was just before this Duke-Louisville game. They're led by guard Tyus Battle, and he's definitely a tremendous scorer, but this Syracuse team only plays 7 guys, and they've clearly been a much better team at home. I think the Blue Devils should be just fine, especially whether or not they get Marvin Bagley back or not.
I'm looking for 5 in a row with Saturday night's game against Syracuse, and therefore my prediction that we're going to run the table for a while here is looking good. So I'm JD, you're Jack, this is Dealing with the Devils.